want to do your documentary, and this I think is so important, it is people doing things rather than things being done by people. Brian Coda's story that I want you to look for, it's about immigration. It's about being undocumented. And there are maybe, 20 million undocumented people in America, probably more. But this is a story about immigration, about being undocumented, but it's about one person. And a couple others that kind of prove the point. He goes in to talk about a few workers and a few day workers. But it is the story of one person, Brian Coda. And now, you're talking about 20 million people, but it's a story about one person. Do you see that? Tony talking about kayaking is the story of one person, Tony. The story last week was about being homeless and the choice to become homeless. It was the story about one family, wasn't it? And yet you learned more about being homeless from that one family than if I would have given you 18 minutes of statistics and how many people die on the Salt Lake Strip, city streets, or how many people go to Catholic Charities for dinner tonight. What was more vital was that. The other thing I want you to always remember, that a documentary does two things. It states and it relates. Okay? And what I mean by that, we state, for example, in Barbara's story, that the teachers, for example, have I'm trying to come up with a word, maybe a disturbed view of those that are homeless. That's a statement. And then they related it with a personal story of her son, talking about how the teacher felt that he was dirty, and about the daughter talking she couldn't be in a play because she missed school. And that's a statement, that she missed school like everybody else. And then how did she relate it? She talked about having her tonsils out, and they showed the 4th Street Free Clinic, you see. Everything is a statement, and then you relate it. Does that make sense? Every interview, you state something, and the person relates it. So if you begin to see what in a relationship. So in Brian's documentary tonight, I want you to look for what statements he makes, and he does a good job. He'll give you some figures. That means nothing, but then he'll show you people, sometimes him, sometimes others, that relate to those figures. He'll talk how many people are undocumented workers, and then he'll show you the people standing outside of Home Depot in a snowstorm. And that's a relationship you see visually and written. So every story that we do, we're not just going to state it, we're going to relate it. And the best way to convince people, and then we're going to get into this story that we're talking about here, that the one we're going to use as a sample. But I want you also to think of something, and this is the best way to win an argument, by the way. And that is this. Don't argue with Lucia, but there's another one too, another way. Okay. And that is called stated. Okay. We stated, we related, we refuted, and then we restated. Okay? Okay, now let me go through this. Let's say, for example, if we were to say on a statement again, let's go back to kayaking. Okay, kayaking can be dangerous. We relate it by showing, if we're going to show this is Tony, watch, and this is Tony with his hand all bandaged up. Then we say, but there are those who say it's totally safe. In fact, 50 million people made it down the river without drowning this year. and then we restate it, but try to tell Tony that, you see? And now you're left with this argument that, I'm going to believe Tony. Do you see how that works? So in a documentary, and you're going to watch you're going to watch the way Brian does that, and that's what makes the argument so convincing. Now, I would imagine that in this crowd, that probably we have a very sympathetic crowd when it comes to human rights. Am I correct? Is there anybody who wants to stand up and say they don't believe in human rights? Because I doubt you would be in the humanities class if you did. So I mean, we're not dealing with going to Senator Hatch's office or Senator Lee or something like that for the Tea Party convention. But you're going to see in Brian's piece, he's going to state it, he'll talk about something, and then he'll relate it, and then he'll get some politician going, we must send people back to Mexico, or whatever he says. You've all heard those lines. And then he'll go back with a story to restate it of kind of summarize on why he shouldn't be ever deported. And then you walk away going, I don't believe that legislator who claims that he should go back. Do you understand? And I hate that word, go back. I'm using that in a very, very sarcastic manner, of obviously quoting what's in there. So you begin to see now, we're going to build an argument in all these. Now, it doesn't have to be a vicious argument. It doesn't have to be a political statement. But we're going to in each one of these documentaries, we're going to make a point. And that's where we lead to a very wide point we're trying to make and a very narrow story. And I know that doesn't make any sense, so let's start at that point. Okay, so let's start with a subject. Now, in the group, by the way, is there any discussion or any comments on what we just talked about? Brought up against you, or if you're trying to show somebody conquering something or the consequences of something, what you show your audience and your viewer is, yeah, I understand that other people are going to say it, but let me just bring it back to my point. So you answer the question for them, because it's one way. We want people to be convinced. We want people to be moved. Now, we're not necessarily making political statements all the time, but we want people to be moved. We want people, like you take in Crystal's documentary, it's not, we want people to be moved to know there's hope. So she stated the problem of what addiction did in her life. She related it to these stories of some pretty serious manners. And then in many ways in her own life, she refuted it a little bit, like where she said, I know, but I was lying, about when she had her second child. And she talked about how she was lying to the world that she knew she was still using, had no address, etc. And that was sort of like, right, yeah, come on, I'm no better than I was before I had the kid. And then she restated, but I saw hope, and then the rest of the things about hope. Do you see that? Mm-hmm. Okay, it's a good way to put together your story in both major points and minor points. Any other questions or discussion? You see, and I want you to be looking for those things. Okay, and again, this is about people. This is not about the addiction. How many people are sadly addicted in this country? And a statement that it is now modern in slavery. Okay, and then a relation that because in history, throughout history, people were able to travel without ID, without documentation. Okay, that was a statement. Then you pick up the story with, but everybody says they don't pay taxes. That's the refuting, you see? And then you restated it, but they do pay taxes. And then we all cheered because we had a statement, a relation, we had a refuting, and a restatement. The only thing we were missing, Brandy.
Oh, I just want to affirm what he said as far as modern day slavery, and that is because, right, mainstream America, and I'm in the midst of immigration reform. So,
Yeah.
anyway, mainstream America, you know, does, I mean, it's up to the politicians to create hysteria. And so, so they say they're taking our jobs. Well, the jobs that the undocumented are doing are the jobs that the Americans do not want to do. They're the jobs that our children don't want to do, like working in the fields, working, you know, cleaning hotel rooms and, you know, and those sort of things. And so
Butchering animals.
that's what you, I guess that's what I wanted to
Okay,
affirm is
now-
what you said.
All right, but what Brandy just did
individual.
was a perfect, there you go, and we're gonna get to that. So you stated it, you related it, you refuted it, you restated it. It's the way we naturally make an argument. So we're gonna do the same thing in our documentaries, except we were missing the one thing.
A person.
You darn right, we're missing a person, such as so-and-so, who has paid taxes for 25 years, has never collected a dime of this or that, and now we have a statement, a relationship, we refuted it, we restated, and we put in the human being to show that. Okay? And that's our proof because it's no longer rhetoric. It's the story of somebody who we know it happened to. And that would be one heck of a documentary. Now do you see that?